Hello, everybody, and welcome to Dishing with Stephanie's Dish, the podcast where we talk to people that are obsessed with food, cookbooks, and all things in the food space. And today I'm speaking with Jenna Helwig, and I kind of came across her mostly on Substack, which I think maybe will make her be surprised. I found her as the creator of the Cookbookery Collective cookbook newsletter. And I was like, hey, you're into cookbooks. I'm into cookbooks. Let's talk about cookbooks. And we got the call set up. And then she said, oh, and by the way, I am the food director of Real Simple magazine. And I was like, oh, just that small detail that I literally did not even know about you. I'm so embarrassed. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. And I'm thrilled that you found me through the Substack because that's a newish thing for me. And I love that, people are reading it.
Yes. And I was so like, I'm just obsessed with cookbooks. And I am a cookbook writer. I'm on my second book that's coming up. And I read a lot about trying to get published and different points of view of cookbooks. And we have quite a few good cookbook authors that hail from the Midwest and the Twin Cities here. And you had, I think, done an interview with my friend Zoe from Zoe Bakes, which probably is how I found out about you.
That is probably right. Yes, Zoe. Also, I think of Amy Thielen. I know she's not
Yes.
right there, but she's, in the vicinity, right? So, yeah,
Yes.
for sure. And Pinch of Yum, aren't they based
Yes.
in Minneapolis? So,
Yes,
yeah,
they
you've got
are.
a good food thing going.
Yes, and the Food Dolls just published their book. They have like 8 million followers.
Amazing.
And
Yes, I
Sarah
listened to that
Kiefer.
interview. Yeah. And who
Yes,
was that?
Sarah Kiefer, do you know her?
Oh, yes, of course. Her
She's,
cookies, baked good.
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
we are
Nice.
all from the Twin Cities, and most of them have like specialty angles. Like, um, I am just a home cook, so that's sort of my point of view on the Midwest. But it has been a really great market to be in. And one of the things that I started a radio show about 17 years ago. So we've talked to a lot of these people along the way. And right when we started the radio show, Facebook and Instagram were launching. And it's been such an interesting trajectory to see cookbook authors in particular. And like everyone's like, oh, print is dead, like magazines are dead, publications are dead. And yet, cookbooks are in some respects doing better than ever.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like they are thriving. I also feel like, at least for me personally, and I do notice this though with a lot of other people, that we are on our screens all the time and we're kind of tired of it. So whether it's a cookbook or even a print magazine, like there's just something so lovely about turning pages, just like shutting out everything else, no other notifications are popping up on your screen. So print is very special.
Yeah, and it feels like you can have like personal one-on-one time with it because you can set your phone down and really immerse yourself in the story.
Yes, exactly. We all need more of that.
I think so. My food magazines too. You mentioned that you're the food director of Real Simple, and you guys are having your 25th anniversary.
Yes.
And I literally, before you sent me that text, I was like reading it, and I'm a subscriber, so I'm going to hold up my copy here. Because
Mhm.
I love food print too. I worked in the newspaper business and I'm kind of a tactile print person also. And you had a really cool feature this month about what's the best takeaway you've ever gotten from Real Simple because you guys are in your 25th birthday. So I thought I'd
Yeah,
ask you
amazing.
what your best takeaway is.
Oh my gosh, that's such a hard question. Um, all right, I'm sure it's going to be food related, and I'm kind of gonna cheat and pick something from that month. I worked with Molly Yeh on the beautiful birthday cake that's on the cover, and one of the things she did that I feel like I've used in other applications, but never for frosting, was she used instead of food coloring, freeze-dried raspberry powder to make the beautiful pink frosting. And I just hadn't done that before, and it was so easy and such a kind of natural way to make something look so lovely.
Yeah, that's funny because yeah, and the cake, it's a lemon poppy seed cake and then it has like a raspberry pink frosting on the outside and then raspberry jam on the inside. it also gives you a little bit of that raspberry flavor in the frosting, but it's not like super wet like it would be if you used real raspberries, or also like super overly sweet if you used just jam.
You know what? That is exactly right because it lends that little bit of tartness to it too. And so it's just such a nicely balanced frosting.
So you are a cookbook writer yourself.
Hmm.
I'm forgetting the name of your books. It's Minute Dinners or Dinner and
Bare
Minute,
minimum dinners, the most
Bare
recent.
Minimum.
Yes, bare minimum dinners. So that's I'm all for that.
And you've had a number of cookbooks. I think, aren't you? Like you've had a few more of that too.
Yes, so I've written 5 books. Three of them were more in the like family, baby, toddler space. I used to be the food editor at Parents Magazine.
Sure.
And so that was really how I kind of got into cookbook writing. I started with real baby food and then wrote one called Baby-Led Feeding. And I will say that is by far my best-selling cookbook. It's still something we actually did a reissue a couple of years ago. So I did an updated version. It's still something that parents are finding, and that just makes me so happy.
My neighbor who just had a baby, she's going to be 2, was obsessed with that book
Oh.
because
Mhm.
she knows I write cookbooks and I film a TV show in my house too. So I'm always bringing them food. And when she first had the baby, she showed it to me and she was like, "Have you ever heard of this book?" And it
Oh
was
my God.
yours.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Well, that's it's so great. That's a really hard time of life as just like trying to figure out, no one really tells you how to feed your baby, which is strange. And so I think anything that I could do to make it just less stressful, that was always my goal with those books.
And I think that there's so much to be said about just getting dinner on the table. Like it's almost a political act these days just to like be working, be taking care of your mental health, be worrying about your social time with your kids, your family, aging parents. And then all of a sudden, every day, someone is supposed to like be putting all these elaborate meals on the table. Like sometimes just even surviving a day without the food, and then you have this whole other stressor on top of it.
I could not agree more. I mean, which is why I thought of bare minimum dinners. Like it's this idea, and we do this also in Real Simple. It's very similar. They're like, I call fussy the F word. I'm like, nothing fussy, especially when we're talking about recipes in the magazine. Skip the garnish. Like, you're not putting on a show for anyone. Just do what you can. That's really, what is it? Better or good is better than perfect. Done is better than perfect. Just get it
Yeah.
done.
And some people like because they feel like they're trying to live up to something in an Instagram photo, it prevents them from having a dinner party or making food for a neighbor because maybe it's like not good enough. Just the sheer act of eating and providing food for your family, whoever your family looks like, or even just for yourself, you are going to eat better. You're going to have more control over what you eat. I have eaten at a million restaurants in my life, and I just find that I always feel so much better when I'm cooking at home.
I agree. I love to go out to eat. However, then if I do that too much, I'm like, okay, I just need to reset at home. And I've also noticed that in some cookbooks, there has been this trend towards the food not being overly styled or the author doing that themselves. I'm thinking about like Julia Turshen with her last book. She photographed that herself, and the food looks great, but also real, like you
Yeah,
could do it. And also the book Chinese Enough that I just featured in Cookbookery Collective. Those recipes just don't feel like nitpicked to death. They're just
yeah.
very natural looking.
I feel like we might see more of that. I photographed my own book, but it was simply out of necessity because I didn't have 20 grand to pay someone. So I said to the publisher, well, if my Instagram's okay, I'm gonna do like similar to that. Is that okay? And they were like, sure. It's like, oh, great. As we look at cookbooks as a genre, things have changed a lot because it used to be that you were a professional chef or you were a restaurant chef and you were writing about your restaurant, or you were a small group of people that were super experienced in cooking, and maybe you had, 10 books that you were writing in the different genres. You did vegetarian and gluten-free and then dairy-free. Now, like the cookbook space is really kind of being taken up by regular people or influencers in a lot of respects. Does that open the door for more excitement, or is it sometimes, do you worry that maybe the books aren't as good?
Oh, that's a tough question. Um, I think that anything that gets people cooking is good. So I am, if it is someone without a lot of cooking experience who has a book, but it still excites people to get into the kitchen, fantastic. So that's really my main goal. I do think, where I am in my life, like I really want to learn something new from a cookbook. So that's what I personally am looking for. But there are cooks of all different, ability levels and experience levels. So I think that having a variety of cookbooks that can reach everyone where they are is probably the answer.
There is so much diversity too in cookbooks now. Like, the no offense to the old beautiful Asian cookbooks that you would get, but you didn't really feel like you could make a lot of the things out of there because maybe you didn't have the ingredients or you weren't familiar with technique. The more recent diversity in cookbooks, it feels like you can actually make some of these things.
Well, I think that's right. Some of the things do feel more accessible. And also, we just have access to so many more ingredients now,
Hmm.
which is amazing. Just even at like regular grocery stores. My parents live in Colorado and like in the suburbs. And I was, just driving by where I used to live, and there was an H Mart, which I like my jaw just like fell on the floor. There's no H Mart there when I was growing up. So the fact that I could have had access to all of those ingredients and now the people who live in Broomfield, Colorado
Yeah.
do is a miracle.
That's so funny because I'm actually reading Crying in H Mart right now for my book club, and it's just a delightful memoir about a woman who's experiencing the loss of her mother through the Korean cooking and heritage that she had growing up, and it's really a delightful book.
It's so good.
When you are thinking of what you want to write about for your Substack, because I'm in some ways I'm surprised that you still find this topic and this genre interesting after having worked at Real Simple for 5 years, because it's almost like feels like is it too much of the food, but it really is steeped in you. And how do you pick like what you want to feature on your Substack versus what would maybe be a potential something in the magazine down the road? Or is it just all the love and all of the same?
For real simple, obviously I get to kind of put a lot of myself into there and kind of direct that coverage, pitch what I think we should cover, but I'm always doing that through the lens of our audience. She's usually a she, what does she want? How much time does she have? What's going to make her life easier? So I really hyper focus on that. And a lot of it does kind of mirror my life because I am kind of similar to the real
Yeah.
simple reader, but that's primary. I feel like with the Substack, I can just do whatever I want. It's really like the books and the authors that speak to me the most. It's nice to kind of have that, freedom, even if it's something that maybe we wouldn't cover in the magazine or might be a little more obscure. It's just fun to be able to follow my passions and my interest. And I do love food and I really love cookbooks. So it's funny that I spend even extra time with them, but it really makes me so happy.
I am hoping that in Substack's evolution that we get more information about who our readers are. Because when you're like at a magazine, you have a deep dive in your target market and the radio show, they know exactly who your P1s are. In Substack, you have followers, but you don't exactly know that much about them except basically where they come from.
That is such a good point. And I'm sure you also know so much more about this than me. I'm such a newbie. I've been a Substack subscriber for a long time. But now I just, launched this, like just over a month ago. And so I'm still figuring out all the analytics and everything. But I agree that that would be super helpful just to know more. Like, and I've also been thinking, and maybe you've done this, like, have you done surveys of your audience, your subscribers?
Yeah, and also like people don't love to fill them all out.
Oh, I
And
do. I love surveys.
see, I do too, but that's probably because we're like the publishing types,
Yeah.
right? So I did a survey and it kind of mirrored what I thought from an age perspective, but I didn't get much more details than that.
Okay.
So I think if I was going to give Substack advice, and maybe they'll ask me someday, who knows,
Mhm.
that it would be to help us understand who those markets are more, because it does help you frame who you're writing for. As you look at the newsletter, are you going to continue to speak to authors? Will you ever do recipes on your own? Like you've been in that space.
So I don't think I will do recipes on my own. I feel like, when I have ideas for new dishes or new, like stories, I kind of direct those to Real Simple.
Hmm.
And I've done a lot, I've done all those cookbooks. So I sort of feel like the world maybe doesn't need more recipes from me.
Yep.
I'm very interested in what other people have to say. I think that I love doing these author interviews or just the interviews with other people in the cookbook community. Like, recently interviewed the woman who started Instagram's oldest cookbook club. And so
She
that was
was fascinating.
so great. Yes. And there was such a good response to that. I'm interested in talking to people in cookbook publishing. So just really kind of anyone in that community. I think there might be room later for more like reported stories,
Yep.
that so not interviews, but like on a certain topic, like book design or titles or spines. I don't know. But I don't think it's going to be recipes for me. We'll see.
It
Yeah.
is interesting. You asked the woman with the cookbook collection how she organized her collection, and she said by type of food or genre. But then there's other people that I know that organize it by color.
I do that.
Okay, and it looks so cool.
Yeah.
Like when you have a huge collection, it looks so cool on the shelves. But I was like, oh, that would be so hard because unless you remembered the color of the cookbook, how could you find it?
Yeah, I will say, so I live in Brooklyn, New York, in a not huge apartment. First of all, everything has to look as tidy as possible, and colors help with that. And I really only have room for about 250 books, as opposed to like Deborah was saying, she has 2,000.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So jealous. But so somehow in my mind, I know what the color is. I don't know how to say, but
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
oh, I
So you
think that's
catalog
the
it.
purple
Yep.
one. Yeah. So if I had more, maybe that wouldn't work.
Yeah. Well, and okay, so you live in Brooklyn. That is such
Mhm.
an amazing food community.
Yes.
And you just have so many great makers. And I do find a lot of good makers in Real Simple, like people making new artisanal products. And I had a podcast about that for a long time. That is really like when you feel like you've discovered something that someone turns you on to and it's great.
Mhm.
That's like one of my favorite discoveries about being involved in the food business. And I feel that way about cookbooks too.
Absolutely. And I think that when it comes to Real Simple, that's really one of the things that people come to us for. They trust our recommendations, and things that we've discovered. And I feel like that is especially true with our holiday gift guide, um,
Yes.
which, is like pages and pages every year. We spend months on it, finding things, testing things. And believe it or not, I'm going to be starting that again soon. Um, but yes, I think that it's such a privilege to be finding these new things and sharing them. And I think we really do get good feedback from them.
Do you get to travel a lot around the country or?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly trips that I am taking for, like, I went out to Expo West
Mhm.
recently. Do you know that? It's a big,
Yeah.
huge, like, food trade show in
Yes.
Anaheim, and went and met with a bunch of different brands, saw what was going on, what was new. So I try to take as many opportunities for travel as possible. I really love to just be out and about.
Did you run across at that show two gals? They have a product called Maza chutney.
Okay. I was literally just talking to someone about this today. In fact, I sent a photo to my executive editor because yes, I did meet them. And then I was at the Cherry Bomb Jubilee
Yes, and
in
they
New York
sampled
a
there.
couple days ago. Yes, and they sampled there and I actually got a couple bottles. I was like, can I take that? And they let me. And so I made some eggs for lunch today and I put the cilantro chutney on
So
top. It
good.
was so good. And I was, yeah, just telling one of my colleagues about it. So
Yeah.
funny.
I produce culinary markets in the Twin Cities, and they were one of the first makers that I met when I started doing this. And I was just like, oh, those girls are onto something. And it's a family business. Their story's so great.
Oh, the branding is amazing
Yep.
and the food tastes great. Are they from there?
Yeah, from
Oh
the
my
Twin
gosh.
Cities. And
Wow.
they've just developed too like a lentil spread that's
Oh,
like a hummus, but with lentils and also super flavorful and delicious. So watch for that because that's a brand new product line that they just are launching. But yeah, weird coincidence, but
so
yes,
funny. Yeah.
great product. When you remember your actual first cookbook that you got?
Oh, okay. So I know it was a Betty Crocker, like cooking or baking for kids book. I am not, I think it was baking. I actually was trying to find the cover recently, just like Google search, and I couldn't. But I think that's what it was. Do you have one?
Well, I mean, I have a few vintage. I
It's
kind of
that.
collect.
Yeah, it wasn't that one because it was a for kids book, but I love
Yep.
that. It was like baking for kids or something.
Yeah, and did it have like wiener roll-ups in it?
Oh my God. Maybe. The thing I remember the most were little English muffin pizzas or something like that. I
And
remember
I
my
think
brother and I making those over and over.
I think it also had these like clown cupcakes.
That also sounds familiar. And maybe like cat cupcakes. Oh.
Yes. Oh, so funny. Every year we do a cookbook swap, and it's a super fun event, and people come and bring books that they no longer want or use, and we kind of sort them loosely in this huge room, and then we say go, and everybody like runs in, and however many books you bought or brought, you get to roughly take the same amount out, but you don't have to. But it's been fascinating, the books that people bring. And I mean, there's like a New York Times 1973 edition that has this recipe in it that's only in that book. That's for a lamb ragu. And every year I see that book come by and I like pick the woman who's probably like 20, 24, and I like press this book into her hands and I'm like, you need to have this book and you need to make the recipe on page 121.
I
It's
love
like
that.
three times it's happened, and then they'll email me and they're like, I would have never found that recipe without you. It's such a great fun event.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. I love that idea.
Yeah, it is really fun. And we get a lot of like boxes of people's recipe cards that were like someone's grandma's. And my radio partner and I always sort of move that stuff to the side. And then we keep it for a year and like go through it and look at it. And then we bring it back the next year. We've been doing this for like 10 years. So it's been so fun to see what like really are in people's collections and what they get rid of. And I mean, how many peanut butter blossom recipes there are in the world.
You know what? The world needs more peanut butter blossoms. Delicious.
Yeah, always delicious and always tasty. Well, it has been super fun to chat with you. I want people to follow your Substack. It is the Cookbookery Collective Cookbook Newsletter, and we are with Jenna Helwig. And I'm just really appreciative for your time today. Congratulations on your 25th anniversary with Real Simple. That's fun too.
Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure to talk to
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Jenna.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.